I cannot make this stuff up. Visionary con artists peddled to governments worldwide a marvel of modern science. A hollow piece of plastic graced with a protruding antenna, elegantly attached through a swivel joint. These pioneers audaciously proclaimed that their groundbreaking device could detect an astonishing array of objects, from electronic gadgets to firearms to narcotics, explosives, and why not, even human corpses. It all started here, tragically, in the USA, the land of the free, the home of the gopher, the all-American, amazing golf ball finder. These guys had the nerve to release this 40 minutes instructional video, like the worst possible instructional video I've seen in my life. And I've seen some terrible stuff in my time.
With a little practice and the information on this video, you could soon be an expert in the use of this remarkable device.
So the premise is exactly like a dowsing rod, where you just walk around with like two copper sticks facing forward, and when you cross like a water stream or something, these things are supposed to like face them are supposed to face each other. For some reason, it seems like the dowsing rod seems to work better when you already know where the water is.
Anyone can find a golf ball fast with the gopher, even a child. It's so easy to use, and it works.
It doesn't work.
Now, I know you've come up with some gimmicks in your life, but tell me what in the world this is.
So right off the bat, it's been just like 10 seconds since Joe over here came on screen, and he's already casting shade into our marvelous, great inventor. So let's see what he has to say about that.
Have you got a ball? Yeah, toss that ball. Toss that ball out there. Okay. Just toss it over here. Just toss it out there anywhere. Now what this does is when you use it works on a static charge. Okay.
I'll show you, Joe. This is not another pump and dump NFT scheme. I'll show you. It works on a static charge.
And you don't have to breathe on it. Right. You hold it in your hand. Hold it in your hand, and you walk with this. And when your shoulder hits that golf ball over yonder, you're using your body as an antenna to enhance this. When it hits the antenna, you want to hold it about like this at a 5-degree angle.
I will spare you all the bro science from the 90s, but basically, he proceeds to like walk in like weird straight lines, and he goes back and forth until eventually he finds the ball. This really proves nothing. The proper way to do it will be to do a double-blind study. So double-blind study in this context will be having a third person toss a ball somewhere without Bob or the salesperson know where the ball is, and then have them use the tool and see if they can find it or not. So of course, as part of this research, I tried to get a hold of this marvelous device, but Amazon is out. But we do have a couple of reviews, and I think it's in our best interest to, see what people has to say about this. Fake. Absolute garbage. This is nothing but a novelty bomb corpse finder. I didn't find one gold ball with this thing. Saying that, I did locate some delightfully ivory carvings of Bibisu, the Japanese god of good fortune, and a small quantity of what I believe to be drugs. So it's not that bad. Yeah. And then a 5-star review by Pravda, who says, love it. One of the best get-rich schemes ever. The dummies who marketed this in the 70s blew it. They sold it for $20. 25 years later, a British guy bought all they had and sold them for $75,000 each as a bomb detector, just by putting it in a different box. So like Pravda said, here's where our story really takes a very dark turn, because it turns out that our friend Wade Quattlebaum, the inventor of this device and presumably the gentleman in our video talking with Joe, realized that he could scam, or should I say expand the horizons of his market. And he created card readers for stuff like alcohol, specific people, explosives, everything you can think about. Okay, this is kind of evil. He actually said that you could take a Polaroid photograph of the person that you were looking for and just use that as the card. So that's pretty evil. Numerous U.S. school boards, airports, and police departments purchased the Quadro tracker before it was banned. The Blue Valley Unified School District and Shawnee Mission School District in Kansas bought Quadro trackers for $955 per unit to detect drugs and ammunition in local schools. Polk County Public Schools in Florida bought several Quadro trackers to share between its schools. Houston School District paid $2,000 for 2 of the devices but never used them, thank God. School officials in the McKinney Independent School District declined to discontinue using the device. Jesus, even after it was banned, saying that they hoped it will be a deterrent. We are not looking to nail a particular kid. We are looking to send a message. Yeah, a message about ignorance, I guess. And this next part is actually heartbreaking. The Texas Department of Public Safety used a Quadro tracker in a failed attempt to find the body of the murdered 7-year-old Carling Smith. This is disgusting. Many scammers started to copy the device and add little variations to it and sell it all over the world. And I would like you to hear the amazing James Randi about it, because he made it a goal to make the world aware of this scam to ensure that nobody will just buy it anymore. So for those that are not familiar, James Randi was a Canadian-American stage magician, author, and scientific skeptic who extensively challenged paranormal and pseudoscientific claims.
This is called a dowsing rod. This is electronic dowsing rod, apparently, and they cost about $1,600. This is called the Electra Search X60. Come and take the chair, please. How do you do? What is your name? Oh. Right, sit down here. This is an electronic wonder. This is full of all kinds of charm and technology and good things like that. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to look in. First of all, it opens up like this, you see. It's much more spectacular that way, and it costs a lot more. And it's supposed to point at explosives, you see. Like this. It'll point at engineers. So, look at that. It works very well. I'm going to take this antenna off, and I'm going to show you something about the antenna in a moment. But meanwhile, come on. There we go. I'm going to ask you to take those rubber bands off very carefully, and the box will come in 2 pieces. Now, this machine has killed hundreds of people in Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq. It is manufactured in the UK. This is not the same machine exactly. It's exactly the same thing as far as the wiring and such goes. In Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan, people have used this as an explosive detector. And I have a friend in the CIA. I won't tell you what department of the CIA. And he works in Afghanistan and in other countries as well. And he called me one day and he said, I have just seen a horrendous explosion that was fatal to a few people and blew up a couple of buildings. He said, I was there at the border point when a truck drove in, a panel truck, and they didn't bother to inspect it for explosives or weapons. They just waved the ADE 561 rod at it. And the U.S. government spent $1.2 billion to buy these things and send them off to these 3 countries. That's my tax money, friends. And for all I know, maybe they were sent from Canada too. I don't know. But he said that truck took off down the road, 200 yards down the road. He blew up, killed some people, and blew a couple of buildings down at the same time. He said, I didn't stick around because I was so disgusted by this, and the ambulances are running all over the place. Now, you see a circuit here, sir. Yeah. Have you any idea what it might do?
But just looking at it, no.
Nothing. Now here we have a piece of ribbon wire. You see, this is fancy electronic stuff. It's all different colors. There are 8 conductors in it. And it loops around the box, and here's the other end. Not connected to anything. Oh, one strand is connected right to this screw here, which connects to the rod. Now, what is in the rod? I took it apart. No, I took this apart, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason that I hesitated a bit, this didn't belong to me. It belongs to a fellow who collects nonsense like this. He calls it, what's this technical term for it? Crap. He collects electronic crap like this. And he gave me this to use in this demonstration. And I took the seals, they have some glue down there. Hot glue was poured into the crack. And it says right at the bottom there, if you take the screws out or you violate the security of this, you'll lose the warranty. It voids the warranty. My warranty is lost. Well, not my warranty, his warranty. In other words, they don't want you to look inside. What this circuit actually is, very interesting. There's a circuit board here. Now, those are high precision resistors. You see, there's some of them were wire-wound resistors. Well, capacitors, some little businesses here, all kinds of stuff. But this circuit board is from 35 years ago, when Motorola used to make remote controls for televisions. That's what it is. It's for a remote control television. I've got another model of this too. The same package, the same designations on it, the same meters and switches on the front, but it's a circuit board for a refrigerator for controlling the freezing of the ice cubes inside there. Just paste it inside. It's just pasted. It's not even glued. Pardon me, not only screwed in. It's just pasted in there with hot glue and not connected to anything. It doesn't do a damn thing except take the lives of hundreds of people who use this supposedly to find explosives. And inside here, this is even more fun. This side, they also mention you must not open up this capsule here, see? Well, I opened it up. Silly me. Got a couple of wrenches, put it on there. And inside, I found a material that I sent to my chemist friend in New York City. I said, I think I know what it is, Jim, but let me know what you think. And he analyzed it, took it apart. There's a green substance, green crystals inside there. And there was a burned out resistor, a carbon filament resistor inside, just floating around in the box. It makes a clicking noise when you shake it. That's all it's there for. It's a burned out resistor that doesn't work and it's not connected to anything. And the green stuff in there was green aquarium sand. Nothing more. But this is supposed to be a specially tuned material, tuned only to explosives. That's the kind of stuff that the American government, and I fear your government as well, has been spending money on, and it's deadly.
So, I probably know what you're thinking. How these people got away with it? Isn't there some kind of process for military ordnance, like to certify devices? And the answer is yes. And I'll show you several US entities that actually tested some of these fake devices and told the Army and the Navy and the FBI, do not buy these things. These things are scams. So let's go through it. Okay, now I'm going to quote from this huge article written by Dr. Machan from the UNAM University, where he compiled like an extensive list of all these fake detectors and what happened with them. And if we search for FBI, we see that actually the FBI did test the Quadro Tracker. The Quadro Tracker fraud came to an end in 1997. An FBI agent had become suspicious in 1995 and x-rayed the device to discover that it was empty and did not contain any obvious electronics. The FBI commissioned FBI laboratory technicians and Sandia National Laboratories to examine the devices. They found that the Quadro Tracker contained no electronics whatsoever. It was merely an empty plastic box in which the only metal parts were a couple of wires and the antenna, which were not connected to each other. The antenna was merely a transistor radio aerial. Attorneys for Quadro Corp later contended that the inductors and oscillators supposed to be inside the device aren't quite type usually thought of by electronic experts. The locator chip was shown to be equally fake. One example put on display by the FBI contained dead ants that had been frozen and stuck onto paper with epoxy glue. So this is just nuts. Quattlebaum had earlier demonstrated the creation of a detector card to James Randi of the JREF. His observations suggested that Quattlebaum took a picture of the substance, made an enlarged copy, then cut that into small pieces and used one as the reference frequency for the Quadro Tracker, maintaining that an ordinary photocopier was actually an electromagnetic frequency transfer unit. It was claimed that a missing person could be found by inserting a photograph of that person or fingerprint, whatever you have at hand, I guess. Following the FBI testing, an injunction was served in against the promotion or sale of the Quadro tracker in January 1996. At the same time, the FBI sent out a warning to all law enforcement agencies in the US not to use the Quadro tracker to establish probable cause. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, the FBI just put everyone in jail, and that was the end of it. Case closed. But unfortunately, no. Surprisingly, some of the co-founders were let loose. One of them was Malcolm Rowe, and he went to Europe and created another company that sold the same crap, just packaged differently. And at this point, they call it the Mall. So at this point, Malcolm Rowe started to hang out with Gary Bolton, James McCormick, and a bunch of other crooks. And they tried to sell this device again in the USA. Somehow, it's not clear how, Sandia Labs ends up testing them all with the same results. They just say that it's strikingly similar to the Quadro tracker, and it doesn't work. And here's where our friend Gary Bolton became a little bit wiser. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's the right term, but basically he realized that he needed to find friends in the government to help him push his bogus product. And he just did. Let me show you this next story. How UK soldiers and ambassador were enlisted to help sell fake bomb detectors. Gary Bolton paid just £500 for the UK's ambassador to Mexico to write to state government officials introducing his wares. The blood was flowing faster than ever in Mexico's drug war. In the frontier state of Sonora, the body count was rising by one a day in 2009, and anyone crossing the border from Arizona was warned of targeted assassinations and narco-related violence. It was so lawless that traffickers used ramps to drive trucks packed with millions of dollars of marijuana over the border fence and sprayed US agents with machine gun fire. It was against this backdrop that Giles Paxman, the Britain's ambassador to Mexico, wrote to senior officials in the embattled state government to introduce the wares of Kent entrepreneur Gary Bolton, who was selling the GT200, just another copy of the Quadro tracker, a handheld detector supposedly capable of identifying drugs or explosives up to 700 meters. Unbeknown to the ambassador, it used nothing more than a car aerial, that's the antenna, attached to a hollow plastic grip and did not work. Paxman, the younger brother of the BBC broadcaster Jeremy Paxman, emphasized the excellence of the UK's security industry in his letter of introduction, and Sonora's public security ministry agreed to meet Bolton. The ambassador made similar introductions with the state authorities in Guadalajara, where he and his staff lined up a meeting for Bolton's company with 8 officials, and also introduced him to municipal and state governments in Baja California, embassy files released to The Guardian under the Freedom of Information Act show. The GT200, we know now, was a sham that placed lives in danger. The devices cost as little as £2 to make, but were sold for as much as £15,000, and they worked no better than chance. Before Bolton was jailed for 7 years at the Old Bailey for fraud last year, it is thought that he managed to sell around 1,000 units to the Mexican authorities, mostly to the military, which used them on patrols of gun-controlled areas to decide which properties to raid for drugs or explosives. So literally, they were just tossing a coin every time they used this piece of garbage. Mexico's National Human Rights Council has since concluded that the intrusions into homes on the basis of information from the GT200, as well as the confiscation of goods and the detention of persons carried out because of that information, should be considered illegal. Among those relying on the bogus kit were the state authorities of Sinaloa and Chihuahua, where more than 10,000 people were killed in the drugs war in 2009 and 2010, according to the Mexican government's own figures. Bolton's ability to enlist a British ambassador to back his frauds reveal how British diplomats and officials around the world are routinely available for hire. Jesus. And how the government does not normally check whether products they are promoting actually work. The help Bolton received is replicated for other companies by UK diplomatic missions across the globe. In the past year, and keep in mind that this article is from 2014, UKTI, the government's trade body, was paid to help UK business abroad on more than 6,000 occasions, earning £7.7 million in fees under its overseas market introduction service. Eligibility boils down to whether a company has a UK trading address, and the service is straightforward and relatively cheap. Bolton paid just £500 for Paxman's efforts in Mexico, settling the bill with his bank card. Bolton had been making a good living for a decade selling his bogus kit around the world. He lived in a £700,000 six-bedroom detached house in the rural North Kent and had been quick to recognize the value of British government's involvement in the sales pitch for his adapted novelty golf ball finder as he pitched to authorities in Thailand, Bahrain, and across Africa. In 1999, he hired the export support team of the Royal Engineers to produce a report bearing the regimental insignia on an early version of his device, then called the Mold, which we already covered. The report became a sales pitch, and he hired soldiers from the regiment to act as his salesman. £763 for a corporal to demonstrate the device at trade shows in Kuwait and Bahrain in 2004. £1,500 for a corporal to demonstrate the GT200 in Warsaw in 2003. His use of the report embarrassed ministers in 2009 when it started to emerge that the GT200 was not the device it was claimed. Quentin Davis, then Minister for Defense Equipment, wrote to Bolton demanding he remove from his website any reference to the MOD support, so Ministry of Defense support. Bolton replied indignantly to what he saw as an attempt to distance the UK government from the support they have willingly given. Yeah, no shit. So you can see that this Gary Bolton guy, was able to make sales around the world just because they had some sort of endorsement from the UK. And this is the textbook definition of a logical fallacy. In particular, the argumentum ad verecundiam, or appeal to authority logical fallacy.
You should have respected my authority.
This fallacy occurs when someone asserts that a claim or argument is true based solely on the authority of the person making the claim, rather than on concrete evidence or reasoning. So as we saw, this dude ended up in jail. Many of these co-conspirators ended in jail as well. And maybe you're thinking that, okay, this is the end of the scams, but unfortunately it's not. I went online and searched for bomb detectors and found all these Chinese garbage stuff. So this is just going to be a thing as long as people are just willing to accept authority without like looking at the merit of the premise and testing these devices before buying them. I suspect that there's a little bit of corruption as well behind all this. So all in all, I'm just going to keep chasing some of this. And speaking about BS devices, I just bought one of these. So I'll show it to you on the next video. I will do some electrical test, and I'm sure we'll have a blast with all this Scientology nonsense. That's pretty much it. See ya.